Eddie Jones has announced the Wallaby squad for the Rugby World Cup this year in France, and boy do we have some surprises. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Okay, so we're first going to just have a chat about who's in the squad quickly, just name them. Then we'll talk about who's been excluded, some of the main ones at least. And then we'll talk about a little bit more about who's actually in the squad. So starting off with the props, we got Angus Bell, then Pone, Fa Masili, Zane Nonger, Blake Scoop, James Slipper, Tenila Tupo. Then hookers, Matt Faisler, David Parecki, Jordan Ulisi. Locks, Richie Arnold, Nick Frost, Matt Phillip and Will Skelton. Back row, Langy Gleeson, Tom Hooper, Rob Leota, Fraser McWright and Rob Ballatini. Scrum halves, we got Isaac Fines, Lele Iwasa, Tate McDermott and Nick White. Fly halves, Carter Gordon. Centres, Lalakai Foketti, Samuel Karevi, Isaiah Paresi and Jordan Butaya. Outside backs, then Max Jorgensen, Andrew Kellaway, Marika Korumbete, Mark Nawakanisa Wase, Sulisi Vunivalu, and in utility Ben Donaldson and Josh Kameni. So exclusions, we've had a fair few big names out. We did know about the likes of Bernard Foley wasn't in Eddie Jones's thoughts really for this. He didn't include him in any of the rugby championship squads or anything like that. And we knew that James O'Connor as well was, there was no big comeback for him. But we did have the likes of Reese Hodge, Peter Samu and Tom Wright, who were kind of regulars for the Wallabies in recent years, all being included in the rugby championship squad and then being dropped before the end of that as well. But then the two big ones are former captain Michael Hooper and probably star player, and then Quade Cooper as well. So, Michael Hooper, I know he's got I think it's a calf injury, but, talk has been that we will be back by maybe some point in the pool, whether it was game 2 or game 4 or somewhere around there, I think, but he would be available. And, a player of that caliber not being included, I honestly don't get it. Then Quade Cooper, for me, he would not be my starting 10. I think he has, his upside, there's just too much negative with him for his upside to kind of offset it. But at the same time, if I was picking a Wallaby squad, he would still be in it. So maybe Eddie doesn't see as much upside as I do, but with Cooper, I feel that he has that ability, obviously, to make something happen out of nothing, and sometimes you need that when things aren't going your way. I feel that on the downside of things, his game management still isn't great, and when they're getting beaten up front, he has a tendency to try and make something happen, and that can be 50-50. It could be an intercept pass that just completely ends any chance of comeback, or he could do something amazing and spark a big scramble at the end to actually try and get that try to win. So, he does have his positives, but for me, he probably wouldn't be starter, but he still would be in the squad. Jones said it was a very difficult decision to leave the two of them out, but they decided to go with youth for this. I'm still kind of reeling at the fact, though, that Michael Hooper isn't going to be there at the Rugby World Cup. You want to see all the best players in the world, and when you think of Australia, you think Michael Hooper as their absolute standout best player. So in terms of then the players who are in the squad, so we'll start with the props first. We've got Angus Bell from the Waratahs. He's got 23 tests. He's been kind of a mainstay recently. Then you got Pone Famasili from the Rebels, who's just got 5 caps to his name, but certainly has been a favourite of Eddie's recently. You got Zane Nonger, who's been, on the bench for a few tests as well. From the Reds, he's got 2 caps to his name, so obviously Eddie has seen something in camp that he really likes about him. And you got Blake Scoop from the Brumbies. Can't tell you anything about him because absolutely young cap. So he's going to a World Cup without even, like, he probably will represent the Wallabies before then because he still have, one or two warm-up games to go before then, but still to get chosen over others to go is still a little bit crazy. Then you got James Slipper from the Brumbies, 131 tests, easily the most capped Wallaby now left in the squad. Then another guy with a decent amount of caps, but nowhere near Slipper, is Tenila Tupou from the Reds. He's got 48 tests to his name, so a lot in kind of that front row is going to rest, I think, on the two of them in terms of providing that experience to the other players. Hookers, then you got Matt Faisler from the Reds, just one cap to his name. Dave Parecki, who seems to be the preferred starter at the minute from the Waratahs, 14 caps for him. Then Jordan Ulesi, who seems to be the preferred backup from the Rebels, with 18 tests to his name. Then into the locks, then you got Richie Arnold, just 4 caps to his name. Nick Frost with 12 caps. Matt Phillips with 28. Will Skelton, now the captain from La Rochelle, with 28 tests to his name. Skelton, I feel like he's a fantastic player. I still don't think he performs anywhere near as well with the Wallabies as he does for La Rochelle. I feel like his carries don't have that much impact. I don't expect him to be swatting people away or whatever, but I do expect him to be making those extra meters after contact that he doesn't seem to do with, in a Wallabies jersey that he does for La Rochelle, even though it's against similar caliber players as well who are trying to stop him. So, and then the added pressure of the captaincy, it can go two ways, I guess. Eddie obviously hoping that's going to spur him on to better performances. I worry that the extra weight is actually going to detract from his performances. We're actually going to see him have less impact for his team. Onto the back row then, we got Langy Gleeson from the Waratahs, 3 tests to his name. Can't really tell you all that much about him. Tom Hooper, who was decent enough in the appearances that he made. He's from the Brumbies. Obviously his brother's not made it, but he's got 3 tests to his name as well. You got Rob Leota from the Rebels, 16 tests to his name. He's decent in the back row. Same with Fraser back right from the Reds, 12 tests to his name. You got Rob Valentini, who's now the most experienced back rower with 34 tests to his name from the Brumbies. So a lot of weight then on his shoulders as well in that back row to perform. Onto scrum halves then, you got Isaac Fines, Lele Iwasa. Can't really tell you anything about him. He's from the Force and he's uncapped. Force finished 10th in the log in the latest season of Super Rugby. The Rebels did finish below them though in 11th, and there are a couple of Rebels in the squad too, but maybe he's a bit of a diamond in the rough for them, similar to the likes of Carter Gordon, who's actually there at fly half. We'll come to him in a second. So we've got Take McDermott from the Reds with 25 tests to his name, who is a vice captain. We've got Nick White from the Brumbies, 63 tests to his name. It looks like it's going to be McDermott starting and White may be coming off the bench, but Fines Leiwasa has been picked for a reason. He's not just going to go there and sit in the stands for the whole tournament, so he's going to see game time as well, and maybe Eddie will just throw him in if he feels like the other two aren't performing. Fly halves then, Sid Carter Gordon from the Melbourne Rebels, just 4 tests to his name, only fly half in the entire squad, or at least only specialist fly half in the entire squad. A lot of weight on his shoulders now to perform. And then if he gets injured, what's going to happen? Does that mean that Cooper's going to get called up anyway? And then how is Cooper going to react to that, to being, excluded and then called back up? And a lot of question marks about that selection there. Carter Gordon, I think, in terms of ability, definitely deserves to be in the squad. I just don't think he should be the only 10 in the squad. It felt like by the end of the Rugby Championship, he definitely was Eddie's starter at 10. So Cooper was going to go as a backup anyway. So maybe Eddie didn't feel like Cooper would be happy with that position maybe in the squad. I'm not too sure on that. Onto the centres then, we got Boketti from the Waratahs, 5 tests to his name. Karevi from Urayasu D-Rocks. He's got 45 tests to his name. He's a quality player, and but you still kind of worry about that kind of that midfield for Australia. But I guess if Gordon can get them ticking, like Karevi really can produce at times, but at other times he can be kind of anomalous in games. Then you got Isaiah Paresse, only 5 tests his name from the Waratahs. Only seen a little bit from him, kind of some good flashes and some not so good flashes as well. Then you got Jordan Bitaya from the Reds, 27 tests to his name. So, it looks like maybe himself and Karevi are going to be the centre combination for at least starting out for the Rugby World Cup. Outside backs then you got Matt Jorgensen from the Waratahs. Can't tell you anything about him because completely uncapped. Haven't seen any or very little of the Super Rugby season this year. So can't really tell you how he's even been playing for them. Got Andrew Callaway, who's probably going to be the starting fullback, you would imagine, from the Rebels. 23 tests for him. Enrique Corumbete, definitely going to be starting on the wing, playing for Saitama Wild Knights. 55 tests to his name. So Saitama is actually the prefecture that I used to live in Japan. It's about 4 years ago now, right? I used to live there. So that would basically be my local team, my local rugby team over there. Then you got Mark Nawakanisawase from the Waratahs, 6 tests to his name. He's been doing some good stuff. I think like getting up in the air, either to claim the ball or to cause problems for the opposition as well. You've seen him doing some really good things there. You got then Vunivalu from the Reds, 2 tests to his name. He's a league convert. I think he switched over maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago. Didn't kind of work out, and then Eddie decided to bring him into the squad. Anyway, haven't been all that impressed with him, but he obviously had a pedigree in league, at least, because league converts generally come over for multiple millions of dollars. So it's not like he's going to be not have any kind of natural talent. It's just whether he can produce it at test level for the Wallabies is what I doubt. For me, probably the best back in the team is Corumbete, but he has a tendency to do stupid things as well. Then utility players, we have Ben Donaldson from the Waratahs, 2 tests to his name, and then Joss Kameni from the Rebels, just 1 test to his name. Can't really tell you much about either of them. I think Donaldson might be able to cover 10, but can't really tell you much outside of that. So the other talking point, I think, is the fact that Slipper was a vice captain coming into the Rugby Championship, and that has been taken away from him. So I'm not sure, or has it? Let me actually double check on the announcement. It's actually, because McDermott is a vice captain, but Slipper isn't. Okay, yeah. So I would have just left him as a vice captain, because you don't really have much of a leadership group there in terms of experience in the squad anyway. So taking it off him is kind of not a great thing to do, I would say. But looking at the squad, obviously Eddie has gone with youth for this, and it's going to be one of these ones where either they're going to freeze on the big stage, or they're just going to have no fear and they're going to tear it up. But I think if Eddie really is backing youth, he needs to have these guys actually starting games, and in his 23, and not just kind of sitting in the squad and sitting in the stands for all of the big games. So it's going to be interesting how much he actually backs those guys when it comes to the big games for the Wallabies. it certainly is an exciting squad that they're sending. I think everybody's going to be watching out now for how these guys do in the Rugby World Cup. And maybe, Australia are always talking about trying to get those neutrals into rugby and interested in seeing how the Wallabies are going. They have a lot of Australian rugby union fans talking about it's the most competitive sports market in the world, etc. I'm not sure whether that is true or not, because other countries have bigger competing sports as well, but it certainly is a very competitive market with league and AFL and then soccer getting bigger over there as well. So they do have to kind of have thoughts about trying to get fans to watch as well. So if these young players go out there and actually produce, fair play to him. I think Eddie has obviously decided that the squad that have been there under Dave Rennie just weren't working, and he's gotten rid of a lot of them and brought these new guys in. So Eddie's going to have stuff up his sleeve as well. And I talked about the fact that when he was appointed as well, generally Eddie has that honeymoon period that kind of hits between 6 months to maybe a year, maybe out to 18 months in the job. Then after that, then he falls out with everybody and it just goes downhill. So, for the Rugby World Cup, maybe he's at that kind of sweet spot for them, and will get the best out of him for that. They may go into the Rugby World Cup though on the back of 5 lost tests in a row this year, because their next one is against France, right? I think that's actually the last warm-up game is against France, and if they lose that, then they'll have lost all 5 tests they played this year. But I'm now very excited to see how this squad go in the Rugby World Cup, and so let me know your thoughts on the squad. Who would you have picked? And if you were Eddie and you were just cutting the way he was, is there anyone else you would have actually cut from the squad as well? That'd be kind of interesting to know.